Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for your focus on this tremendously important topic today. I'm delighted to be here. My comments today reflect the general context in New England. We have expensive electricity. We have no indigenous coal and natural gas, face transportation costs to bring those fuels to our region. We have, on average, lower greenhouse gas emissions than the rest of the nation, and we have across New England a deregulated power market. In Massachusetts, we've also made, and other New England states have as well, considerable investments in energy efficiency. And in Massachusetts, we're currently in a rate decoupling proceeding where we're trying to eliminate the current economic incentive on our distribution utilities to maximize power sales at a time when we're trying to cut greenhouse gas emissions. We already have in place some limited greenhouse gas limits on our power plants, and as the Chairman noted, we're in the process of transitioning to the RGGI system the first of next year. In renewable energy, we're moving forward with 3 new biomass power plants, the Cape Wind project, a sizable solar program, and new incentives for biofuels. And as the Chairman noted, we've combined first state in the nation to do so, our energy and environmental agencies together to focus on 3 key things: tapping the economic potential of the burgeoning clean energy sector. In Massachusetts, we've got $250 million of private venture capital investment and a great deal of job creation in that area. Second, curbing our greenhouse gas emissions. And third, reducing our energy costs. When Governor Patrick brought Massachusetts into the RGGI process early last year, one of the central questions we faced was whether to auction or for allowances or whether to grant them. Based on our analysis, we concluded that auctioning was a better way to protect the interests of the ratepayer. And the core thing to know there is that in a deregulated power market, the value, the economic value, the market value of an allowance is going to make its way into the electricity bill one way or another, whether that generator decides to expend the allowance as they dispatch power to the grid, whether they save those allowances for a future generation event in the future, or whether they decide to sell those allowances. And either way, that value is priced in whether or not that allowance is given out or whether it's sold to the generator. On the contrary, if you sell it to the generator, then you've got those revenues to do something with, and you can protect the ratepayers. And that's what we decided to do with our auction proceeds. And our first auctions begin in the second quarter of this year as we move into the compliance period for RGGI. As we did an analysis of what we should spend those money on that would best protect the ratepayer and achieve our environmental objectives, energy efficiency stood out above all else. We have the opportunity to not only save money for the ratepayers, but also to lock in permanent greenhouse gas emissions reductions. In terms of the cost of RGGI, we see in the first couple years less than a 1% increase in potential electricity bills, and as energy efficiency investments grab hold and accrue over time, within 10 years, we see over 5% energy savings. Now, why is that? It's because we've got a great deal of energy efficiency left in our system and indeed across the nation that is cheaper in many cases than power generation. In terms of how much revenue we're going to produce, if it's a $1 permit, you'll produce about $26 million. If it's a $5 permit, it'll be $133 million. At the higher end of that scale, would be effectively doubling our investment in energy efficiency in the Commonwealth. As you think about a federal system, I'd make a couple key points. One is that states, I think, are best positioned to deliver energy efficiency services. It's not something where the federal government is somewhat too removed from the individual ratepayers and the end-use consumers, and it's something that states have done a great deal on, and I think you could have set up objective standards to say what are the performance basis that we'd like to see for use of proceeds down at the state level for energy efficiency. I'd also make the point that as compared to a grandfathering scheme where you're giving out allowances, the auctions really level the playing field across all the different sectors instead of building in potentially unfair treatment for early movers. As we conduct our auctions this summer, we're going to focus on a few things. I'll mention them quickly and happy to get into more detail in the question. We're going to have our auctions open to any qualified buyer. As we watch the market develop, we may add rules in the future to make sure there isn't any hoarding or anything of that nature. We're going to have a sophisticated market monitoring system so we know who some of the players are. And then as we go forward, we're going to use a 3-year compliance period to allow some flexibility between years because emissions vary depending on things like weather events. Finally, I just would mention I've submitted a longer 10-page appendix, and I'd be delighted to take questions. And I thank you for your focus on this. We in the states look forward to engaging with the Congress as you move forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.